chapter in the India-France Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. That's actually now being taken to the next level. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Paris. He will co-chair the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit with the French President. It's a very, very crucial summit where rules of the AI game are being made and shaped. This is a very high-profile summit in Paris where Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and these are live images of the Prime Minister landing and being received by the delegation, by officials both of India and France. It's a ceremonial guard of honor for the Prime Minister of India. It's a tri-services guard of honor that's been given to the Indian Prime Minister as his aircraft lands at the Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. The Prime Minister will co-chair this AI Action Summit with the French President Emmanuel Macron. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, US Vice President J.D. Vance, the Chinese Vice Premier Zhang Guoqing. They're among some of the top global leaders who will be on the high table discussing the impact of artificial intelligence on global security, on economics, and on governance. The world grapples with very crucial issues relating to artificial intelligence, issues of ethics, governance, and accessibility. And these are images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi being welcomed in Paris.
गंदा पानी पीते हो मेरा मतलब.
Very, very important summit. India is pushing for Global South to have equitable access to artificial intelligence. World leaders are discussing public interest AI, future of work, innovation, and trust in artificial intelligence, and of course working on the global AI governance architecture. And for the benefit of viewers who are joining us, India has a 10,371 crore AI mission. Artificial intelligence, both Make in India and Make for India. Incidentally, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France is huge, not just on the AI Action Summit front that India co-chairs, where rules of the game are being framed, but also on the bilateral front, where a major focus will be on procurement of 26 Rafale Marines. These are Rafale fighter jets. Last time it was 36 fighter jets for the Indian Air Force. This time it's 26 Rafale Marines for the Indian Navy for our aircraft carrier and 3 additional Scorpion submarines. Let me quickly cut across to India Today's Foreign Affairs editor Geeta Mohan joining us for more on this. Geeta, we have a very, very important bilateral summit that's coming up with France, a very close strategic partner. But let's first talk about the Artificial Intelligence Summit that India co-chairs that shows how significant, one, AI rules that are being framed out for the entire world and India's role, Geeta.
Well, I was talking to a diplomat, Gaurav, on India's role, the fact that, there has been a controversy over China and Chinese DeepSeek, and what's this AI summit really going to do on that front? And he said the message is very clear. The fact that the Indian Prime Minister, that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is co-chairing this AI Action Summit in itself is a message, not just to the world, particularly to China, that there is collaboration, there is cooperation that the West, that France seeks with India. And look at the lineup of people who are going to be there, leaders who are going to be there. We have the German Chancellor, the US Vice President, Chinese Vice Premier, and many others. So having China in the room also goes to show that they're looking at convergences and not just divergences. But it is going to be an important summit. And we'll have to wait and see what Prime Minister Narendra Modi has to say as co-chair of that very summit.
This indeed is very, very significant. Because India, Geeta, is constantly pushing for the global south, not just for everybody in India to have access to artificial intelligence. India has its own 10,000 crore rupee artificial intelligence program, Make in India and Make for India. But then India has a bigger role to play here. India wants developing countries, global south countries, to have access to artificial intelligence, to benefit from it, and for rules of the game being framed in such a way that it's the same for all, that giants should not have access to more or discriminate against the developing countries, Geeta.
It is one step towards democratizing, towards inclusivity in the AI world. Right now, we are looking at far west and far east that really dominate this very sector. If you look at the list of tech giants, Gaurav, you'll see that there are Indian origin tech leaders, but not Indian. So we are yet to get there. But in terms of the people behind AI in every tech giants company, it's all primarily a majority of them or most of them are Indians. So this is a moment for India to capitalize on that Indian talent, Indian origin, people are living abroad, Indians are working abroad. There's so much of collaboration and cooperation that India can look at this point in time. So that's very, very important.
It indeed is. So there's one leg of this trip which is all about Artificial Intelligence Action Summit. India co-chairs that summit with France. Then there is also a bilateral leg of this visit that's equally important. And Geeta and I and our guests who join us on this special broadcast, we'll talk about this. India and France are in conversation about next generation fighter jet engines. Now, India and France are in talks not just for procurement of these, but co-development, co-research and joint manufacturing of latest technology, including fighter jet engines. 2026 will be the India-France Innovation Year. There's also an Indian consulate that's being inaugurated in Marseille. So Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he'll be in Paris, he'll travel to Marseille, and then on the second part of his two-nation foreign tour, he goes to the United States of America. That's equally important. But before that, we bring you this report on why this visit to France is extremely significant.
A deal for 26 Rafales M fighters for the Indian Navy. And a deal for 3 more Indian-built Scorpene submarines. 2 deals worth an eye-watering 90,000 crore for advanced fighters and submarines. Is what's on the table when Modi arrives in France. Modi is attending the Artificial Intelligence Action Summit in Paris. But the real meat of the visit are his discussions with the French president to finalize the 2 critical defense deals. The Indian Navy, which currently operates Russian MiG-29K deck-based fighters, is set to enhance its capabilities with the much more advanced Rafale M, a jet specifically designed for fast-paced naval operations. The new jets will operate from both of India's aircraft carriers, INS Vikrant and INS Vikramaditya. Meanwhile, the 3 Scorpene-class submarines follow 6 that have already been built under license at Mumbai's Mazargues dock. The last of the 6 INS Varkshir entered service in the presence of the Prime Minister in Mumbai last month. The order for 3 additional submarines ensures the precious production line remains busy for the foreseeable future. While Modi and Macron will finalize the deals over the next 2 days, the actual contracts will be signed in April when the French Defense Minister visits India. India operates a wide variety of French-origin weapons, including Mirage 2000 fighters, Jaguar fight bombers, Cheetah and Chetak light utility helicopters. But while India has only been an importer of French hardware so far, there are signs that this could change. Recent reports suggest the French army is looking at India's Pinaka rocket system and could be considering other Indian-made items too. And now with a 90,000 crore rupee top-up, the Indian-France defence trade relationship has never been bigger. Bureau Report, India Today.
So be it artificial intelligence summit, be it military hardware, be it talking about innovation, and be it talking about joint development, co-R&D at the level of universities, India and France should be together, and then joint manufacturing for both the countries and for export. So there's lots that's on the agenda and has been in the strategic partnership. Air Marshal Sanjeev Kapoor is former Director General of Inspection and Safety. He joins me on this special broadcast. Also privileged as always to have Group Captain MJ Vinod Augustine, former fighter pilot and a drone expert, joining us on this special broadcast. Air Marshal Kapoor, for a moment, before we come to Yalahanka and what's happening at the Aero Show, I want to talk about artificial intelligence and the Prime Minister's visit to France. AI central to our lives. What about military warfare and its cutting edge being a force multiplier? What do you make of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to France and co-chairing the AI summit, sir?
Yeah, I heard your discussion before this. More than artificial intelligence, this visit is so important that he wants to capsulate the tech expertise which the France has. It includes nuclear also.
Yes.
If you recall, when European Union was collecting, a lot of European countries did away with the nuclear power stations, including Germany, Belgium, and others. But France retained. Now, with artificial intelligence linked, there's going to be a massive requirement for creating the GPUs, the energy sources, which will require all the storage. So, combined with it, and the AI usage has been seen to a great extent in both Israel, Hamas, and Iran conflict, and also in Russia, Ukraine. And we always thought the wars are going to be short and swift. But both these conflicts have told us that it could prolong for a long period. So if you have to push your forces to be on the battlefield for years together, we obviously need some sort of an artificial intelligence combined with our weaponry.
Group Captain Vinod, artificial intelligence in UCAVs, and is that the future of warfare? The unmanned combat aerial vehicles, for example, autonomous missions seek, identify and destroy the enemy's vital assets and points without risking lives of own pilots and evading the enemy's countermeasures. Is AI completely changing the nature of warfare, and is that why India being on that global high table remains extremely important?
Very important question, Gaurav. And I'm so fortunate to be here with the Air Marshal, sitting here and talking about AI. And I'm probably, Gaurav, you're not aware, I have a startup called Rushi.
Yes.
Rushi is Krushi plus Hriday. So combined together is Rushi. It operates out of Wyoming. Our major work in that startup is an tech startup focusing on AI. When Radha Mohan Singh ji was the agriculture and farmer welfare minister, I happened to talk to him in his house on the dining table. Then he called all the agricultural commissioners in the agri ministry. I spoke to all of them, and how I said AI can be utilized in agriculture. I had the opportunity of doing that thanks to my startup. When Marshal Kapoor was the DG Inspection and Flight Safety, in his office, his last few months in his office, we talked about how AI can be utilized not only for warfare, but also for flight safety. Finding out where the birds are and how you can prosecute them so that you don't have birds during landing. Now, let's come to the five-fold objective of Modi ji's visit. Not Modi ji's visit, this particular AI Action Summit, summit itself. First and foremost, is public interest in AI is really sparked post-ChatGPT. Future of AI work, innovation and culture, up to this point is okay.
Yes.
Last 2 points are very important, about which Modi ji also talked about deepfake, if you remember.
Yes.
Is trust in AI. This trust in AI is a double-edged sword. A lot of things needs to be discussed under that theme of trust in AI, and finally something called global AI governance. This global AI governance is not AI for governance; it is governance of
Of
AI.
AI,
So
yes.
these two things are very, very important. Coming to your specific question about AI in warfare, if you remember that movie Terminator, I really fear and feel the age of machine is here. This is a start of new things. And if this summit and summits now onwards do not address this issue, Gaurav, human brains does not have the capability what an AI has. We recently developed a particular module, gave it to the Ministry of Home, where over 10,000 vehicles, less than 1 second, you could identify a particular vehicle, tag them, also identify how that particular vehicle is interacting with other vehicles in
Okay.
that area over various videos. Is it humanly possible to do that? It is not.
And that
That is
clearly
how.
shows in every aspect, and that is why we need to be on top of the game. But for a moment, I want to shift focus, and I want to keep the focus strictly on military hardware, because that is where, especially with a country like China, which is actually soaring ahead, how much do we have to catch up? Air Marshal Kapoor, let's take a look at the Aero India show at Yelahanka. The Americans are bringing in their F-35s. The Russians have their Su-57s. The Chinese very recently, they displayed their 6th generation fighters. We have 2 chiefs who fly on board a Tejas, with the air chief flying the Tejas. Now, that's great on Josh, but isn't it time that we need to move way, way beyond symbolism in the real world?
Absolutely. And this has been covered time and again for last many weeks, ever since the air chief made the statement in Subrata Hall. The catch-up is going to be difficult. It is a policy decision which the government will have to take. You may like to copy the C295 model, wherein the transfer of technology takes place to catch up in the deficiency of our squadrons. You may have this visit of Prime Minister to France, in my opinion, at some stage would be discussing these issues.
Yes.
Because the manufacturing of aero engines is the most complex part. Not more than 4 to 5 countries globally manufacture aircraft engines, and fighter engines, but of course, a very handful of these countries. They don't want to part with the technology. We don't have the metallurgy. We don't have the equipment to design and manufacture. See, when the LCA project came up, the designing was done by ADA. The manufacturing was to be done by HE.
You know, I want to stay on the current issue. You're absolutely right on the genesis of the problem. But Group Captain Vinod, China showed images of its 6th generation fighter jet, the Stealth. Russians and the US are showcasing Su-57s and F-35s. Our Tejas induction that Air Marshal Kapoor talks about, induction that started in 2016, 10 years, we still don't have the first 40. Before we move on, briefly, listen in to the Air Chief. Listen in to Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh talking about how huge the crisis that India faces is. Listen in.
Tejas, we started inducting in 2016. 2016. Actually, we should go back to 1984 when we conceived that aircraft. First aircraft flew in 2001, 17 years. Then the induction started another 15 years later, 2016. Today we are in 2024. I do not have the first 40 aircraft also. So this is the production capability. We need to do something. And I am very convinced that we need to get some private players in. We need to have competition. We need to have multiple sources available so that people are wary of losing their, orders, that we may not get the next order. Otherwise, things will not change.
Air Marshal Kapoor, Atmanirbhar Bharat in defense, it's a cherished goal, it's a desired goal, but given are depleting squadron strength. And given China's numbers, so where do we have our 4 squadrons of LCA Mark 1A, 4 squadrons of LCA Mark 2, our AMCA, advanced medium combat aircraft? That's still a mock-up at Yalahanka. So 6 squadrons of AMCA may be a pipe dream. So what's the solution as the squadron strength depletes?
I was coming to that in my last discussion. The problem is aero engine. We developed Kaveri. It was developed by DRDO. The reheat part of this engine did not take off. So there again, HAL also had to start looking for some engine which could fit into this airframe, and then we reached this American 404 and 414. By the way, 414 is designated to be fitted in Mark 2s and also in AMCA.
Yes.
But the whole problem is we are dependent on a foreign company to give us these engines. Till our nation decides to manufacture our own aero engines, for which France is one country. I just tweeted this morning that amongst the NATO countries, the country which could collaborate the best with India today is France. And if this visit of Prime Minister Modi to France, in some way is able to convince the leadership there to come and set up the manufacturing of the aero engines, be it Dassault, be it Safran, be it any of those big, because we have operating Mirage 2000, Jaguars, and all the other airplanes which you just mentioned. If the production line for the aero engines could come, and in the meanwhile, while this is set, we could procure the tested Rafales, which India has already taken from them, and cover up this gap, and then work. Parallelly in Aero India, like you mentioned, both F-35, which has proven itself in Israel conflict now, and also Su-57s, which have taken part in Hawaii Air Show. I saw the videos of the November Air Show in China. And also there are talks of this aircraft participating in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. So both of these are proven platforms. Both of these are, the only issue is which country is going to hold your hand to part.
And that very clearly, as we've seen, is easier said than done, and we'll be tracking the story very, very closely. Group Captain Vinod and Air Marshal Kapoor for joining me here on India Today. Many thanks. The Prime Minister's visit both to France and to the United States of America, extremely, extremely crucial, even when it comes to national security, and we'll be tracking it. A quick break. Geeta Mohan comes up next with The World Today. Stay with us.
Motorola Razr 50 Ultra comes with Google Gemini.
Others count bots. We count people.
Sisodia has lost Jangpura. Arvind Kejriwal loses almost by an identical margin.
No artificial inflation. No fake spies. Just real people